Hello and welcome to the next video. As you can see, we're moving on to something new, and what we're going to be focusing on now is ratio. Now, you should already be familiar with ratio, okay? It's a way of sharing things and describing how they're shared, as in who gets whatever portion of the item, okay? So, ratios you're probably familiar with being seen are perhaps we've got something shared in a ratio of 1 to 2, and so that's how we write it: a number, then a colon, and then a number. Or we might have something shared in a ratio of 3 to 5. Okay, we could even have something shared in a ratio of 1 to 2 to 3. Okay, there's no limit to the number of things we can have shared in a ratio, but all this does is it tells us how much has been given to each person or each participant in the sharing, okay? And the number tells you what proportion they've been given. Okay, so these could describe anything, but let's look at this one, the 1 to 2. If we draw down what that could actually mean, it could be something like this. It could be squares and circles, and so for every one square, we've got 2 circles, okay? So it's 1 to 2 squares to circles, okay? And if we add these together, that tells us how many total things we have. So 1 and 2 is 3. We've got 3 total things. Okay, let's look at this one, 3 to 5. Let's say it could be, okay, 3 triangles and 5 squares. 3, 2, 5. For every 3 triangles I have, I've got 5 squares, okay? And 3 add 5 is 8. There's 8 total shapes, okay? So that's the basics of ratio, which should hopefully be familiar to you. What we're going to be looking at is how to work out either part of a ratio, as in if something is split 2 to 1, how much do you get? Or if something is split 2 to 1 and you know how much the 2 is, how much is the 1? How much is the total? Okay? And to do that, there's just a couple of rules we need to know. Okay? So we'll look at a nice, easy example to start with. We'll say we have £36 shared between Sally and Steve in a ratio of 2 to 1. Okay, and when we read these, we keep them in the order, okay? So that means Sally is first, so she has the 2, Steve is second, so he has the 1, okay? And then I want to work out how much does each get. Okay, so there's a process to this. So first off, we'll write down the number we have. We have the £36, okay? So we have £36. Now, does £36, does that represent the 2, the 1, or the total? Okay, well, the £36 is being shared between them in this ratio. So the £36 represents the total, okay? So the £36 equals 3 parts, okay? Because there's 3 parts being shared here. Someone's got 2 of them, someone's got 1 of them. So the first step to do then is to work out what 1 part equals, okay? So if £36 equals 3 parts, the way to work out 1 part is to divide by 3. So if I do that, that means £12 equals 1 part. Okay, so I know then, whatever the ratio has been shared in, 1 part of that ratio is equal to £12. Okay, so whoever's getting the 1, that's Steve. That means Steve gets £12. Okay, Sally, however, she was getting 2 parts. So let's work out what 2 parts is. So if I know 1 part is this, the way to get 2 parts will be to times that by 2. So that means that is £24 equals 2 parts. So then Sally gets £24. Okay, and let's just double check we're right. Does the 12 add the 24 add together to make 36? Yeah, it does, so we're right there, okay? So when £36 is shared in a ratio of 2 to 1, that means Sally's getting £24 and Steve is getting £12, okay? And that's how ratio works. That's how we split it up, okay? So I'm just going to pause for a second and I'm going to write down 2 more questions like this for us to try before we then go and see if we can do it the other way round, okay? Okay, so let's have a look at some more of these then, okay? So 200 is split in a ratio 3 to 2. How much is each share? So how much does the 3 get and how much does the 2 get, okay? I haven't put names or anything to these just to save a bit of space. So first off, this 200, what does that represent? Does that represent the 3, the 2, or the combined? Well, it represents the combined, okay? Because that's what's all been split. So 200 equals 5 parts because it's the 3 and the 2. So then to work out what 1 part is, what we do is divide by 5, okay? So if I divide 200 by 5, that gives me 40. So 40 equals 1 part. Okay, so what I'm trying to figure out is 3 parts and 2 parts. Okay, so let's start with the 3 parts. Okay, to work out 3 parts, well, I need to times the 1 part. Okay, by 3. Okay, I need to times by 3. So that means my 3 parts equals, sorry, does not equal 40, equals 120. Okay, then I want to work out my 2 parts. So what do I have to do to 1 part to get 2 parts? Well, I have to times it by 2. So if 1 part was 40, and I'm timesing it by 2 to get 2 parts, that's going to give me 80. Okay, and there I've worked out each share. I'm saying that the 3 part is 120 and the 2 parts is 80. Okay, let's double check. 120 plus 80, it does add up to 200, so we know we're right. Okay, so when the number you have represents the total thing, what you do is divide it by however many parts there are altogether to get 1 part, and then you can work out 3 by just timesing that by 3, work out the 2 by just timesing it by 2. Let's look at 1 more of these, okay, before we try it the other way around. So here, 150 is split in a ratio 1 to 2. Does the 150 represent the 1, or does it represent the 2? Okay, or does it represent the total? Well, it represents the total, doesn't it? So 150 equals 3 parts. Okay, so it means 1 part. I'm not going to show all the working this time and see if you can follow, okay? So 1 part then will equal 50, okay? Because we've divided them by 3. So I know this bit already. So then I need to work out what 2 parts is. Well, if 1 part is 50, then 2 parts must be 100, okay? And that's all there is to ratios in this form, okay? Now let's look at another example. Okay, so let's look at some the other way round now, okay? John and Jess share sweets in a ratio of 2 to 4. If Jess has 20 sweets, how many does John have? Okay, so here we don't know the total amount, okay? We're just trying to work out how much one of these people gets. So We know 20 sweets is involved somehow. Now, does this 20 sweets, does that relate to the John's 2 of the ratio, Jess's 4 of the ratio, or does it relate to the whole amount? Okay, well, it says Jess has 20 sweets, so this 20 is actually that 4 there. Okay, so that 20 equals 4 parts. Okay, and we just follow through the exact same steps as before. Well, if that's 4 parts, I want to work out 1 part next, so I'm going to divide it by 4. Okay, so that gives me 1 part. So I divide my 20 by 4 as well. You don't need to show you're working exactly like this, okay? But I find it helps, keeps it clear. So 20 divided by 4 is 5, okay? So that means 1 part is 5, okay? So we want to work out how many does John have. John got 2 parts, okay? So to work out 2 parts, nice and simple, I just need to times that 1 part by 2, okay? And that gives me 10, okay? And there's my answer, okay? John got 10 sweets, okay? If this was in the exam, make that really clear, okay? Write something super obvious, like John gets 10 sweets, okay? Just make it as clear as possible to the marker, okay, that you know what you're doing, okay? Which I know you do, and you know you do. You just have to make it very clear, okay? So you'll see the process involved was actually exactly the same, okay? We just need to be careful how many parts the number we're given is, okay? So I've got one more of these to finish off. So, oops, sorry, zoom out a bit. So Bob and Deb are sharing a prize in the ratio 2 to 5. Can you tell I picked names that would save me time writing? Okay. If Bob got £100, what was the total prize money? Okay. So £100. Is that Bob's 2 parts? Is that Deb's 5 parts? Or is that the total 7 parts? Okay. Well, it's if Bob got £100. So £100 then is the 2 parts, because Bob was the first name, okay? Again, first step we always want to go to is to work out 1 part, okay? So we've got 2 parts, I want to divide by 2 to get 1 part, okay? 1 part. So 100 divided by 2 is £50. Okay, now here, we're not interested in how much Deb got. It's asking us what was the total prize money, okay? So how many parts was the total? Well, the total was 7 parts, wasn't it? Because Bob got 2 of them and Deb got 5. So if I want to get 7 parts, what I need to do is times that 1 part by 7, okay? Whenever you're doing these and you're timesing like a part by the total, or you're timesing 1 part by someone else's part of the ratio, make sure it's always the 1 part that you times, okay? So then I also want to times the £50 by 7, and if I do that, I get £350. Okay, so that was the total, because that was 7 parts. So again, we'd just make it really clear, and we'd say total prize equals £350. Okay, so that's where we'll leave ratio for this video. We'll talk about it more in our next Google Meet, okay, and look at some different examples in slightly different contexts, okay? But that's where we'll finish off, okay? It's hopefully a bit of revision. But what you want to do is, the number you have, divide that by how many parts it represents to work out 1 part, and then you just times that by how many parts you're trying to find out, okay? Hopefully that was understandable. If not, you know how to get in touch with me, and again, thank you for listening.